Hello, friends. Welcome to another All Hands on Tech. I'm your host, David Neal, developer advocate for Pluralsight, and my job is to help you be more awesome. And any way I can do that, you let me know. Through the power of technology, we have such an incredible opportunity to impact our workplaces, our families, the world in meaningful and powerful ways. And my goal is to help folks to a lot of the world, and we can do some amazing things with it. We can create powerful applications and connect people and um, do good and make positive changes in our world. It's technology skills like programming, software, web development, web management, server management, cloud computing, all those things are tools that we can use to do amazing things. The reason I got started in technology and software development so many years ago, is just how challenging and fun it can be to solve problems using computers. Um, I just like to tinker and learn and the reason I'm still doing this today, still learning software and programming languages and different tools and frameworks, is because the learning opportunity is always there to do more and more things. Um, Thank you for joining. If there's any questions that you have along the way, anything you want to chat about, drop your comments in wherever you happen to be, and I'd love to hear from you. So, over the last several of these streams, we've been exploring building a trivia application with Node.js, Socket.io for real-time communications. We're using Fastify to build our backend API server, and there's a Vue on the front end, Tailwind CSS. We haven't done a whole lot of work on the front end yet. That's definitely we're going to get there pretty soon. Salmon says, "It's a pleasure to be here." Thank you, Salmon, for connecting and being part of the today's stream. As I mentioned before, my name is David Neal. I'm a developer advocate for Pluralsight, and my job is to help folks get excited about learning technologies. And, my specialty is like Node.js, JavaScript frameworks, SQL Server, relational databases, document databases, building web application services, building desktop applications with Electron. And if at any point you have a question about any of those things, anything that you see me doing, drop that in the comment wherever you are, and I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to have the opportunity to help you with your journey, whatever that might be. Let's see. If you're interested in following along with the software that we're creating, you can find that on my GitHub repository at github.com/reverentgeek/ahot-trivia-game. AHOT stands for All Hands on Tech. That's where we are. So go ahead and jot down that link if you want to get the source code. You could also use that to play around with the with the code, to uh, submit a pull request or issues or suggestions, anything that you want on that repository, that would be amazing. And let's see. Salmon says he's from Dubai. That's incredible. That's a case in point. I was talking about, the power of technology being able to connect folks from all over the world. I mean, the internet and streaming and things that we can do with our software that we create and technologies that we work with gives us the opportunity to connect with people all over the world and make a positive impact. So I encourage you to use whatever skills and opportunities you have to make a positive impact. All right, I'm going to switch over to my screen. I changed my layout of my buttons on my thing that manages my displays. Let me turn the captions off here. And I've got a terminal opened I'm running on a Mac, but the code that we're creating is built with Node.js, and you can use whatever operating system you're running on to do this. It can be Node is supported on Mac, Linux, and Windows. I spent most of my career on building software on Windows-based applications, Microsoft stack of technology. And these days, I'm very interested in building cross-platform applications. And JavaScript has been where I've landed because, throughout the years, JavaScript has been a language that I've always had to use because I've been building web applications. But it's also a very powerful language. That's an incredible skill to have because you can build so many different things with it. Desktop apps, mobile apps, games, server applications, of course, web-based, but also anything and everything in between. The community is, and things that are available is pretty amazing. So I have Visual Studio Code is what I use to close that document. Visual Studio Code is what I use to build and write code these days for JavaScript, Node.js. I think it's an amazing editor. So if you don't already have an editor, I highly recommend Visual Studio Code. I've got a number of plugins installed. It's something I don't always talk about is what kind of extensions you may have for the environment that I have set up. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see some of the things I've got in here, like, have to do with HTML tags, C# support, themes, formatters, CSS, ESLint, Markdown, lint, view support. So whatever kind of applications you build, you can probably find some extensions that will help make your life a little bit easier. Oh, thank you for joining Hogswort Emo Dragon. It just tickles me to see some of the usernames that come across in folks who join on the stream. Detroit, let's see. Let me put the captions up on this, see what this looks like. probably makes the code too small. I'm not going to worry about that. But Hogswort Emo Dragon says, "Girl, develop it. Detroit has made me a loyal Sublime text editor." Loyal to Sublime Text. Sublime is what I used for years before switching to Visual Studio Code, and I still think it's like a very it's a great editor, especially for speed and resources, memory usage. It has a very small footprint on your operating system, and so I really appreciate that. Used it for a long time, and I still think it's one of the best editors out there. So yeah, good call on that. So last time we were together, we spent most of the hour generating some mock trivia questions. We're getting ready to play this game, being able to randomize a bunch of trivia questions and send those to the client so that each player can have the same set of trivia questions that they try to answer and compete against each other. So this code that's up on the screen right now, this generatetrivia.js, that is the code that we wrote last week on creating a bunch of trivia questions. And we generated 200 mock trivia questions and saved those to a file called mocktrivia.json. And if we look in that file, it's just a bunch of questions. Some of them are true, false questions. Others are choice, have 4 choices available. Right now, we just have, we didn't randomize like which choice is correct for all the multiple choice questions. The correct choice is choice number 4, and that's okay. For now, that's going to just allow us to, have a starting point for testing our application. All right. So what we're going to do today is to take all these mock trivia questions that we created and use in our application, select a random set of these trivia questions and probably limit it to maybe 50 and send those down to the client as part of initializing the game. And there's several ways we could do this. We could use the same library that we used last week, the FS Extra, to be able to read in that JSON file and parse it. But there's something actually even easier than that. If you've got a static JSON file, Node.js you can import that JSON into your Node.js project the same as if you were importing or requiring in a JavaScript module. And Node knows how to load and parse that JSON and turn it into a JSON object. So it's kind of a nice little shortcut. So what I'm going to do is here in the source folder where we've got our initialization for our backend web server and our game server logic is in gameserver.js. I'm going to create a new file here and call it quiz.js. And this will be our library for working with the quiz data. I start off all my common JS JavaScript files with usestrict to turn strict mode on. Let's see. Let me catch up on some chats. So Hogs worked Emo Dragon. He had Visual Studio on his laptop. Make space for. Decided to go with the editor I had more background with. Let's see. All right. And I'm going to take this mock trivia, copy it, and put it in source, and rename it trivia. I already have a trivia JSON. What the JSON might look like. So never mind, delete that mock trivia.json. We'll take the contents of mock trivia and paste that into trivia.json. Now, eventually, somewhere down the road, we're going to replace trivia.json with the contents of like actual trivia questions, depending on what kind of game we want to do. And if we get really sophisticated, we put our monocle on, somewhere down the road, we may want to have some kind of trivia database or storage or something that we can be able to run multiple types of trivia games. So maybe the person who is starting the game can choose what pool of trivia questions they want to compete with, whether it's nerdy stuff or music or TV movie trivia, whatever. So I got trivia.json. In quiz.js, I'm going to use questions equals require trivia.json. Well, let's just call it trivia. And we'll create a function in here that is going to return a random set of these questions. So you can create functions several different ways in JavaScript. You can create a function, and this is probably the most common and arguably the best way is to use the function keyword. You can also use lambdas for the arrow syntax, and you can assign that to a variable. And I know in the past, one of the arguments against using this approach, let me show you what that looks like. So say randomize or get random trivia, where you assign a variable to an empty function or a function that is an arrow function, but it doesn't take any arguments, so it's just empty pair of parentheses. So that's one way you can define a function. The other way would be function get random trivia 2. And the squiggly lines here because I'm not actually using those functions yet. So my ESLint is just warning me that I've defined these functions, but I'm not using them. It's not because my syntax is incorrect. I kind of like these I like using arrow functions. I think they're I don't know, they're cooler. And they especially for inline functions, if you are defining an inline function uh, as part of your code, uh, arrow this arrow function syntax definitely makes it much easier to inline that code. But I don't know if this is still the case, but one of the reasons why folks um, were against doing arrow functions all the time is that when you're looking at a call stack, these uh, these arrow functions show up with um, unknown names, whereas a call stack with when you're debugging your application, you will definitely know the name of the function that was in the stack that was being called. Like I said, I don't know if that's still the case or not. Definitely, if you're doing interactive debugging where you're setting breakpoints in your code and you're stepping through and doing all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. But it could matter if you're trying to troubleshoot an application error that happened hosted somewhere else on a server. The function names are pretty important to have to give you a clue as to where things are breaking. So there's probably, unless things have changed, there's a good reason to still use the function syntax for major functions. So on the get random data, I'm going to shuffle this array of trivia questions to return a random set every time we call this function. So I need another function that's going to be internal to this, and that's going to be a way to shuffle the array. I am no software genius. If I can find and test code that exists other places on the internet, Stack Overflow or things like that, that's all the better. Now I do have a function that I've used in lots of Node.js projects that I've tested, and you could argue that nothing is truly random, or it's hard to do like truly random stuff. But the kind of the standard approach in JavaScript for randomizing things or creating random numbers is good enough. It'll get the job done. So my shuffle array is going to take in an array, and it's going to loop through this array, however long it is. And it's going to create just some random indexes using the math.random. Now I'm typing all this in based on some notes that I have for today's session. I don't know this code off the top of my head, so don't think I'm doing something magical here. I do know that this code I have, I've used in other places. I've tested it. I know it works. We could go the exercise of going to Stack Overflow and finding code that is very similar to this. But I'm just going to type this in for now. Ogzort Emo Dragon says, I literally have a sticker on my nightstand that says copying and pasting from Stack Overflow. In school, you're taught that answers from others is cheating. It was so hard for me to break out of that mode of thought. Yes. There's a book that I've read more than once called Steal Like an Artist. And, those of us who are software programmers, I mean, we couldn't do our jobs if it weren't for, the work that others have done before us, that help us to learn patterns and, ways of creating code. As we understand how to create code, then we can create some of our own interpretations of how to write software. But we need, examples to, guide us along the way, to teach us principles and teach us patterns. Same goes with like music and art and, just about every other profession. You got to learn from what people have done before so that you can, take that and leverage it in a way. And it's, sometimes it's almost like copying or stealing. It may feel that way, but, you certainly don't want to plagiarize. That's a whole nother thing. But taking what someone else has created and learning it and interpreting that into your own expression, that's part of our jobs, part of what we do. Let's see. So creating a couple of creating this random index, and now we'll do the shuffle of setting array I, index j is equal to, we're just swapping these items in the array. So looping through every item in the array from the end backwards, and then randomly choosing an item in the array to swap it with. And when we're done, we're going to return the array that we just updated. So in the get random trivia, really, since we've already done the work of pulling in the trivia JSON file, and that does the work of parsing it and turning it into an array, our function get random trivia really is only to return shuffle array trivia. And then finally, so that this works in Node.js, we need a module.exports, which is our magic glue for letting the rest of the Node.js world or JavaScript world that this is like our public interface. So our public interface is an object with one property, and that is the get random trivia function. So in our server, when we get to, this is our countdown function. When we get through with the countdown, then we need to then we're sending the state to the client we're updating the state. Let's see. So state at the end of the countdown is either set to active or game over. So the first 60 seconds long. When that timer finishes, it sets the state to game over. So when it's time to start the game, we need to initialize the game and send those questions down to the client. So let's create a function here called init game, and we're going to keep track of the quiz questions for the current game. We'll say quiz equals, and we need to pull in our trip quiz. Oh, that's right. This is quiz. So require in quiz.js, and this will be our trivia. So in our init game, we'll set trivia equal to quiz.getRandom trivia. Maybe what we'll do is, again, this could be something that's configurable down the road. Let's take the first 50 of our array, and here's a case where I don't remember off the top of my head what the syntax is for taking the first set. It could be slice, it could be splice, it could be an array. So Stack Overflow to the rescue, how to get the first n elements. So it is slice. Yeah. So we'll read the trivia. We'll use slice on the end of this, starting at index 0, and we'll take 50 items. Let's console log the trivia and console log the trivia dot length. All right. Let's say if state is equal to states.active, then init game. So when our inside of our code here, we'll initialize the game, and you know, we're gonna refactor this. I just want to test what we've done so far to make sure that we're getting our random set of questions, and that's working like we expected to. So let's go over here and use npm run dev to start the application. And we've got our browser here. Let's start a new game. Waiting for others to join. Right now, I've got it configured as a 2-player game. So start a game, player 2, 3, 2, 1. Game has started. So now over here in our console, we do see that there are 50 items in the array, and we have all of these questions, and we can see that it's in random order because we can, our file is in sequential order of 1 through 200, and these are coming in at 92, 166, 54, 187. So our shuffling is doing what it's supposed to do. All right. So when we send the state down to the client, we kind of need another way of sending, like broadcasting to all the players, the trivia questions, because we only want to do that one time at the beginning of the game. So let's create a function called send trivia, and this will be simply a server.io.emit, and we'll send the questions to the players. And over the channel trivia. So on our client, we'll need to set up a channel called trivia that we're listening for, so that we receive that data and we get it. as a to-do, let's remove the answer from the data that's being sent to the client, so that a person can't, be inspecting, looking at the data in JavaScript and figuring out what the correct answers are, and cheat at the game, right? So we need to remove the answers before we send it to the client, and set indexes. So maybe set indexes. We'll do that. Do we need to set indexes? Yeah, I think that'll be fine. But that does make me think, instead of putting correct, true, correct, false on each of the choices, we could, because we're only going to allow them to choose one answer. It's never going to be like multiple choice where you're selecting multiple choices to say it's these two, and then submit an answer. You'll be tapping on an answer or clicking on an answer and going straight to the next trivia question. It kind of makes me wonder, maybe we should change the data to look like correct at this level is the index of the choice that is correct. So like in this case, the correct answer would be 0, and because it's a 0 based index, 0 array. And for the multiple choice, it'll have the correct would be 3, which is the fourth item in that array. And we could even, fairly easily randomize the correct number in our mock trivia generator. So that would definitely save some space in our JSON. It does the same thing, but I don't know that it's completely necessary that we change the code or the mock-up of the data. But if we, it's better that we do it now. Hello, and thanks for joining. Folks are coming and going throughout the session. So, let me close this without saving it. Man, I kind of like that idea of moving the correct choice to the top of the object in the question array, instead of having it on each of the choices. That would make the logic easier when checking to see if the person selected the correct answer. So I think it's worth the exercise of doing the work to change the shape of that data. So let's go to our generate trivia, and And let's just say that the correct answer by default is 0. And why not? Let's randomize um, the index that we're setting on so let's not set it there, and we will say question dot correct is equal to a random choice based on question dot choices, based on the number of choices that's in that that array of choices. So let's remove the correct off of the choice, because we don't, all we need is the text of the choice. And now let's create a function called random choice. Number of choices. And we'll say return math dot random times choices, which is a number, math dot floor. Choices plus 1, maybe. I think that's right. Let's check Stack Overflow. JavaScript random integer. I'm a human. In a specified range. Uh, so if we're saying 0 is our min, then 0, let's say we have choices 3. Yeah. So I don't need a plus 1 here. That should randomize the choices, I think. This is a really detailed explanation on how the randomization works and why this function works in Stack Overflow. That's pretty cool. let's just run this and see if it generates the expected behavior. So node utils generate 200, or did I? Just run it. So mock trivia. Two, 3, 1, 0, 3, 1, 2, 0, 0. Yeah. So far, I'm seeing random correct values that are within the correct limits, from 0 to the number of choices that are available. Cool. All right. So let's copy and paste this trivia into our trivia file. So if we want to, I'm not going to do that for now, but basically to remove the correct answers before sending them to the client would be to take the trivia array and loop through the trivia array and use the delete keyword to remove the correct property. I believe that's what we would want to do. I'm going to comment that out for now. And the reason I'm not going to do that for now is I want to be able to use that information, as part of our tests on the client to ensure that, whenever we click a correct answer, we're getting credit for that correct answer. Whenever we click for the wrong answer, we're getting points deducted for that. So a init game, we're going to initialize the game. Let's leave the console log stuff in there, and let's send trivia. And we'll go ahead and run this npm start or npm run dev. Let's make sure our data looks like it's supposed to. Start a new game. Player 2, 3, 2, 1. Here's our random set of data. The correct looks good. Now let's take a look at the client It's in our public folder, components, client.js. Now, the stream is, usually stick to an hour, and we're almost at time. So if there's any final thoughts or questions you have, please post them wherever you are. I'd love to have the opportunity to answer those before signing off. So right now, when we create our socket, we're listening for a channel called state. So we also want to listen on trivia. And this trivia will give us our trivia questions, our trivia array. So let's console log the trivia. And let's also, as part of our data that's in our component, let's set that. So this.trivia, equals trivia. And let's see. So whenever we make a change to our source code, our nodemon process automatically restarts the server. But we don't have like hot code reloading or any of that kind of fancy stuff going on in our client. So we still have to refresh the client to make sure that it gets the latest. So I'm going to open up the developer tools so that we have our console up here. I'm going to start the game. Waiting for others to join, start the game over here. Player 2. And so we're getting state from the server. And we got our trivia questions from the server to the client. All of our mock trivia questions. And then we got the latest state, which is set to active. And we've got our players. And so all that's working as expected. So the next step is to work on the client to start displaying the questions, allowing the player to answer the trivia questions. And each time the player answers, we'll send that answer from that player back to the server so that the server can calculate the score for that player and keep all that data updated and in sync so that every time the server transmits back to the client the current countdown and state, that the current scores are also included. So question from Hogswort Emo Dragon: is camel casing more or less important in JavaScript than it is in Java? So camel casing, and there's a camel case, and then there's a Pascal case, I guess, where there's capital letters to begin with. But really, casing in JavaScript is pretty much a preference thing. There's no impetus or requirement on what kind of casing you want to use in JavaScript. For years and years in the early days of JavaScript, a lot of times you saw a snake case, with using underscores between JavaScript variables. That was very common to see that. It seems to be kind of standardized now. A lot of the examples, and most folks have kind of a lot of the function names and variable names and everything will be camel case, but occasionally, in some cases, you'll see Pascal or cases where the first letter is also capitalized. And that's the convention there is usually around classes. So if you use JavaScript classes, a lot of times importing a JavaScript class, the convention is to capitalize that name. The style of casing also differs from, say, project or framework to framework. So I know in the Happy ecosystem, Happy is another Node.js framework for doing APIs and web-based applications. It is very common practice to use Pascal case for lots of things that I personally would normally use lowercase camel case for. So it's all a matter of preference, whatever you like. I've kind of really hunkered down on camel case for a lot of my stuff in JavaScript, but that's a personal thing. All right, folks. I have had a great time hanging out with y'all today. I hope you've learned some things. While I'm closing, I'll just do some housekeeping. All the latest stuff that we've updated. I'm going to commit the source code. Let's see, we randomized trivia questions and broadcast to the client. So next week when we get together, or whenever the next time it is that we get together, we will we'll start working on the client again to start showing the trivia questions, and we'll start scoring the game. Eventually, we're going to make this thing look pretty. Just haven't quite gotten there yet, but we're going to use Tailwind and take advantage of stuff in Vue and everything to make our front end look and behave well. Well, it's very, again, it was great to have you on the show today. My name is David Neal. I am a developer advocate for Pluralsight. My job is to help you be more awesome. If there's anything I can do to help you and to encourage you to whatever help you need along on your journey, tech skills. As I've said before, my specialties are JavaScript, Node.js, SQL Server, desktop, web applications. If any of that sounds interesting to you and you got a question related to that, let Hogswort asks, will there be a subject for the questions? Yes, eventually we will pick a subject for the trivia questions. I don't know what that is yet. Maybe it's something like something nerdy, right? Could be, tech skills questions. Could be like, how do what's the different objects and properties of JavaScript? Maybe we use this as a way to ask trivia questions about the JavaScript language or Node.js or something like that. That could be cool. All right. One last thing before I go. If you are interested in looking at the source code, playing around with it, that is on my GitHub repository, and I just pushed that stuff to GitHub. It's my repository is Reverent Geek /ahot-trivia-game. Go check out the source code, play around with it, see if you can get it to run. There's instructions in the README on how to set it up, and you'll need Node.js and all that good stuff. So it'll be fun to do. I will see you hopefully on the next stream. Join me next week for All Hands on Tech, and we'll continue building this game together. Till then, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye now.